What's up, gays, straights, and other days? It's Mally. I'm back with another episode of Sinners and Saints. Last time we finished the fucking prologue, and what a fucking start it was, and now we're about to move on to chapter 1. However, we've got a couple of tabs over here that I want to check out first to see, like, how I guess we're building us out to be. So here's our character. Yeah, I guess these are our little stats so that we remember, and I guess the game remembers too. Our name is Malmor Morial, and you are a detective in Deadwood. You have dark chocolate eyes, olive skin, and plum brown straight hair that you keep short. You are of a very short height. Fuck you, game, but I guess. You are skilled in art thanks to your time in college. When it comes to Deadwood, you love it but wish you could leave. When it comes to touch, you have no issues with it. Not entirely true for me personally, but it was the closest to my proper answer. If I'm comfy with you, then we can like hug and stuff, but if I'm not, I'll handshake, but that's about it. Anyway, okay, that's for our character. Now what about our relationships? Okay, romantic interests. Sasha, nothing. Oh wait, am I spoiling myself with names? Well, we don't fucking know these names anyways, and I'll probably forget the significance of them anyway, but we've good to know there's gonna be more people. So, Sage thinks we're a pest. Oh no, but that was a smooth, sultry lady. Wait, she has pianist fingers? Wait, I like piano. Why? I was fucking trying to flirt with her to fucking get on fucking Kari's bad side. Hey, Ariel, we haven't met. Kari, new partner, new detective. Yeah, we know all of this. Our relationship, she'll kill us if necessary. Great. Thanks. I thought we were getting on so fucking well, but no. Roan is our best friend, and they feel distance from us. And our first kiss, apparently? Alright, that one's a little weird. I honestly, personally would never fucking, like, go kiss my best friend. Not your best friend as in, like, the romantic, oh, they're my best, no. But, like, your best friend, to me, like, for me personally, like, it doesn't ever go more than that. For me, anyway. So that's a little less believable, but that's just me personally. For the sake of this character, we'll believe it. Alright, cool. You can read the rest of this stuff if you would like, but I'm not going to. This is just for me to check my relationship, and apparently they feel distance from us, which I feel like I've said before. And Morgan, our little psychic here, our baby psychic boy, he feels indifferent about us and the side characters. Oh, that's interesting. And let's see, Hayes trusts us a little bit. That's good. And then Quinn looks up to us and seeks our advice. Tobias and Rosalia, one of those we haven't met yet, clearly. But that's interesting. Okay, so we can always check the relationships here. I would assume they'd update with time, because, like, I thought Kari and I would have fucking... I thought our relationship would be higher than she wants to kill me. We had some nice banter, and why does Sage think we're a pest? I was very okay, our love life is off to a horrible start. Well, this is why I wanted to read this beforehand, but let's head back then. And apparently there's an error with the audio, but the audio is coming in fine on my end, so it should fix itself. So, without further fucking ado, let's get on with Chapter 1. Chapter 1. A serial killer in Deadwood. This shouldn't surprise you, and yet it did. Despite the haunted nature of your town, nothing like this had ever happened before. Unexplained deaths and accidents, yes, but a serial killer. One that managed to evade detection for so long. You felt nauseous, angry, numb. I mean, if I'm the detective, then I feel like I should have caught this, so I would be angry about this, I would think. Anger seized your body. How was this even possible? How did no one notice anything before? Was the killer that clever, or your colleagues that incompetent? You leaned more towards the latter. Kari's low grunt brought your attention back to the present. She was locked in a furious staring contest with Hayes, while Morgan seemed more interested in counting cobwebs in the office than whatever was happening in front of him. Just how incompetent is your station, exactly, Hayes? Kari's green eyes remained fixed on the captain's dress form. Morgan's dry laugh answered her sooner than Hayes could. If you really want an answer to that, we'll be here all day. While the captain grimaced at these words, Kari let out a hum of agreement. You took a deep breath, closing your dark chocolate eyes for just a brief moment. I'm guessing the new death has something to do with all of this? Captain's eyes snapped back to you as if he just remembered that you were in the room. Thanks, Captain. The man had to be really shaken up. Correct. I'm almost sure it's the same guy. Kari interrupted him with a barely muffled snort. Why so sure it is a man, exactly? Morgan supplied the answer before Hayes could even blink. Because men are the worst, historically. I mean, if you check the history books. Hayes let out a barely audible, "That's fair." Kari hummed yet again, convinced of Amoret's point, and you nodded slowly. It was hard to argue when in your line of work, and 9 out of 10 times you would always have to deal with an angry man causing trouble. What's the link between the cases? You asked, coming back to the subject at hand. Hayes paced around the room, visibly irritating Kari with that, as your partner's green eyes stalked his every move. No previous signs, for one. He didn't have to explain this one further. Everyone present in the room tensed, and that was enough for him to know you all understood. No notes, all violent deaths no one would predict. He continued, finishing his cigarette. Still, a question remained. Is your judgment clouded by anything? Kari's voice was far from sympathetic, just straightforward with no malice behind it. Still, Hayes shot her an angry look. You know this had to be asked. You sighed, rubbing your hands together. Despite everything, you had to admit she was not wrong. If Hayes started digging into the cases to make sense of his husband's death, it could be problematic in the future. No, Detective Wortnock, my judgment is not clouded. He gritted out, fists clenching. In the corner of your eye, you could see Morgan's eyes shifting between the captain and Kari. It was impossible to decipher his emotions, but he tensed slightly in his seat. I struggle to see my role in all of this. I'm barely on your payroll, Salty. The monotone voice snapped back both the captain and your partner out of their staring contest. Hayes' brows furrowed. You can talk to the damn ghosts, kid. I think your role is pretty damn clear. For just a moment, you could have sworn Morgan would curse out the man. It won't be admissible, but it will give us a lead. We'll know which cases to focus on. Amoret's fingers tapped nervously on the arm of the chair. Fine. The word almost sounded like fuck you, but thankfully, Hayes ignored it. The silence was unbearable. Am I gonna break it? I feel like I'm gonna break it. Yep, there I am. I assume our first step is going to the crime scene? You inquired, catching everyone's attention at once. Hayes nodded absently, seemingly already somewhere else in his thoughts. Anything else? A dismissive wave of his hand was an answer enough. Well, then we better get going, you decided, already getting up. Morgan's lips curled into an unhappy smile as he followed you out of the captain's office. Of course. We wouldn't want the dead guy to run away, would we? He teased. Kari moved her eyes onto Morgan, not particularly amused. Hilarious, she deadpanned. Morgan shot her a bleak smile. I live to entertain the masses. Oh, we've got a hard option. Wait, does it count for Kari or does it count for Morgan? I want it to be... I want to flirt with Kari Board, because despite how awful she's been lately, we've had our moments. You know what? Yeah, the chance that it counts for both. You two are adorable. Kari snapped to turn to you so fast that for a moment you thought her neck broke in the process. Morgan, on the other hand, looked as if some wires burned in his brain. Oh god, that's good. Kari was first to speak, throwing you a scolding glance as you entered your vehicle. Oh, you're going to punish me, Kari? You're going to punish me? Wouldn't that have to require you to get close to me? Come here and punish me. You really are testing me, Marmorial. Yeah, I know. I live for it. The drive to the scene wasn't long. Deadwood didn't have too many buildings, and unless there was a serious accident or bad weather, you could easily drive through the entire town in less than 3 hours. Most people just walked or used bikes, so there was little to no traffic. It was easy to find the crime scene, too. Police tape was a dead giveaway, as were the red and blue sirens still flickering on the few cars that blocked entry to the alleyway. Subtle. You stepped out, cringing at the sound of Kari mistreating your beloved Buttercup again. At any other time you'd comment on it, but now you have bigger issues. Detective Marmorial. You turned to the owner of the timid voice, one of the patrol officers, Toby Booker. We expected you sooner, he stated matter-of-factly. And I arrived later. Your point? While Booker's expression barely changed, you could see how his gaze turned colder as he looked at you. God damn, chill out, man. In any case, we've secured the scene. Any potential evidence was bagged and delivered to the medical examiner. You couldn't help but notice the tint of disdain as he mentioned the doctor. So far, we managed to keep the press away from this. You lowered your head in an unspoken thanks. In the corner of your eye, you caught a glimpse of your supernaturally inclined consultant already ducking under the yellow tape, making a beeline for the corpse on the ground. Kari, by some miracle, shot you only a look, saying, You owe me for babysitting this feral gremlin. and went to supervise Morgan. Would a date cover it? There's another thing. You looked back at Tobias again as he spoke. We found the body thanks to a tip from your criminal informant. Now the disdain in his voice was clear as day. Sasha? He nodded as you said the name. Or nickname, rather, as... Ah, we are gendering again. Well, in the spirit of giving me more love interests, more fucking options, because apparently Sage thinks I'm a pest, she refused to give anyone her full name. You met Sasha not long ago, though it did feel like it's been ages since you two got acquainted. Alucard certainly had a unique way of making friends, and meeting people in general, seeing how she met you after you arrested her. Oh no, she must not like me too much. Okay, so we're starting to connect the, I guess, remaining people? Cool. No one knew how or when she appeared in Deadwood, where she lived, worked, or came from. When you tried to find out who she was from her fingerprints and DNA, absolutely nothing came up. Not even distant relatives. No record, nothing. You got really lucky that she decided to become an informant and not cause any serious trouble. Yeah, probably. Okay, what have we got? You actually grew fond of Sasha over time, so we're friends. She's a headache. Yeah, I've already got 2 of those. You two were just coworkers, sort of. Oh, and we've got an option to set our history as romantic. Well, since I'm getting absolutely nowhere with the other 2, you two often flirted together back and forth. I'm setting it, I am making it. If Kari would like to do something about it, she can, but as of now, we have a flirtatious past, thank you very much. Is Sasha here? You asked. The officer shot you a look that sent a clear message of, do you take me for an idiot? But, hey, just because you can't get with her doesn't mean that I can't, alright? No, she is at Wanda's. You nodded slowly. Sasha often spent her time at the bar testing the owner's patience and her own limit when it came to alcohol. Oh no. Alright, I will swing by to take her statement when I'm done here. Tobias bowed his head slightly in acknowledgement before returning to his patrol car. Your eyes wandered, looking for a place to start. There was the general crime scene with evidence already secured and photographed. Then there was the body awaiting the primary examination at the scene before being sent to the morgue. Let's go crime scene because I feel like Morgan has the body covered, and we don't want to fucking overcrowd. So let's go to the crime scene. You decided to take a closer look at the crime scene first. It was not exactly gruesome, but more violent than what you'd usually see. There were expected old cigarette butts laying on the ground, some empty beer cans and bottles, no potential murder weapon anywhere. Only blood to be found was around the body. No obvious signs of a struggle or a fight to be seen. There are no CCTV cameras anywhere. Kari's voice took you out of your thoughts as your partner's eyes scanned the area. No witnesses either, apart from your criminal informant. There was a certain bite in her words apart from the usual annoyance. If you're implying Kari cut you off before you could even finish the sentence. I'm not implying shit, Marmorial. Your brows furrowed. Just stating facts. Sasha's not a criminal mastermind, you needn't worry. You assured, kneeling by the puddle of blood at the ground. The weather's been humid since the night before, and so nothing dried yet. It doesn't take a mastermind to murder someone, Marmorial. Kari's grim words resonated in your skull as you processed them. There was truth to it. Often all it took was for someone to get emotional enough to snap, and that was it. One life less in the world. Did you notice anything? You asked, looking up at Kari. You were partners, after all. She bowed her head ever so slightly. You almost missed the gesture. There's no secondary blood splatters, she said, pointing at the scene around you. Not even a drop. Only blood that there is under and around the body. You nodded to yourself, agreeing with the observation. For a kill so brutal, it seemed suspicious that there wasn't more blood in the alley, either on the ground or the walls. The body was moved here then, you concluded, and surprisingly, Kari seemed to agree. Either that, or it was the work of an experienced hunter. Your brows furrowed at the choice of words. Hunter? Kari let out a hum in confirmation. It happened at night in a secluded area with no cameras or witnesses. There was no way out of this alley either, so the victim was cornered. The blood hasn't dried yet thanks to the weather, but there is little to no evidence left behind. Likely whatever was bagged and tagged will lead us nowhere near the culprit, she explained, arms crossed on her chest. After a moment of consideration, you nodded along. Fair, and the victim wasn't exactly high risk. Unless he was under the influence, he would put up a challenge for anyone who tries something. You walked ahead to the end of the alley. There were no marks indicating that anyone climbed the wall, and no blood or scratches either. If he didn't put up a fight, it could be a blitz attack from someone he knew, someone who'd make him put his guard down. You wondered out loud, as the green eyes of your partner stalked your every move. Not necessarily. This alley is a common place for smokers, no? Kari pointed to the many cigarette butts lying on the ground. At night, someone could have easily approached him asking for a smoke, or a light. Then, attack. You groaned in frustration. With so few leads, it was near impossible to rule out the many possibilities what could have happened. As if sensing your distress, Kari moved beside you, offering you a somewhat reassuring glance. Well, that's nice of you, for once. We'll know more after we examine the body, and once we learn more about the victim. You nodded in agreement. You took a minute to look over your partner. It would be challenging to work together in the long run if things stayed as they were now. While you didn't think Kari would do anything to actually harm you, it was hard to tell if she would have your back when the situation demanded it. I know we started off on the wrong foot, but I want to say there's no hard feelings. If you have a personal problem with me, at least keep it outside of working hours. No. Oh. And there were other options, but they're not available. I hope they're not the romance options. Have I already blocked off my chance with her? Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with the nicest one, I guess. I know we started off on the wrong foot, but I wanted to say there's no hard feelings. Kari looked at you with a flash of confusion on her face. There was no aggression in her expression, or any signs of a biting remark coming soon. You took that as a good thing. Instead of answering you verbally, Kari gave you a short nod of her head. You allowed yourself to imagine that it was a sign of your relationship getting slightly less hostile, and more friendly instead. And hopefully more than that? I don't know. I don't fucking know, we'll see. But you should probably move on. Unfortunately, as you both moved towards the deceased, Morgan hurled himself in your general direction, almost taking down the both of you. Kari let out a pained grunt, jumping backwards, away from the smallest possibility of a foreign touch, unlike you, who was too stunned to react. Fucking shit, you little... Kari started to say, only to be promptly interrupted. You didn't see the killer's face, so it's a waste of fucking time. Amora interrupted her, sounding out of breath. You talked to him? You asked, uncertain. Morgan shot you quite a hostile look. No, I gazed into my crystal ball and had a vision of what happened. He mocked, his hands trembling. Kari, despite the expression that could make hell freeze over, moved slightly closer to his side, seemingly concerned by the state in which Morgan was. You look like you're about to pass out, she pointed out, earning a dismissive scoff from Morgan. Thanks, it's what every man wants to hear. You knew a deflection when you heard one, and Amora obviously tried to change the subject to anything other than his well-being. They need to take the body to the examiner anyway, and it will take some time before we will get any reports. How about I drop you off at your house and we can pick you up later? You suggested. It seemed like a good idea. You could learn what Morgan saw and heard, but also he could rest. In this state, pushing him to speak could be a hazard, and you still had a whole day ahead of you. It wasn't even noon. After weighing the options, Morgan gave you a short nod, giving in to the suggestion. Fine, I guess I could use a nap, he mumbled, staggering back to the car, Kari following close after him. You sighed to yourself. A serial killer who masked their kills as suicides and accidents, and a mysterious death in a secluded alley. This was going to be a long day. A hooded figure watched the commotion from a distance. What the fuck? Wait a minute. This isn't my point of view. A hooded figure watched the commotion from a distance. The woman, Detective Mal Memorial, was not something that was accounted for. It could be a potential issue in the long run if she got too close or learned too much. On the other hand, it would be too difficult to interfere at this point without losing advantage of anonymity. Okay, we made it through that word. Anyway, the two helpers of Mal, the psychic and the other detective, could be a major problem as well, with their abilities. Wait, what ability does Kari have? I have no fucking idea. I know fucking Morgan's fucking I see dead people but what does Kari do? Did I miss that? I don't know, whatever. The figure's fingers tightened around the hilt of the blade, now clean of any blood. That's our killer. Okay. Good to know. Bad to know, but also good to know. Great, so I'm being stalked from the fucking shadows. Why? Why me? And because I don't know who this is, if there's a deity, I will pray that we never cross paths. Mal, if this turns out to be a voice that does not fit, I will say that they used a voice changer. Woo! But for now, I'm safe, I guess. Before reaching the medical examiner's office, you managed to get Morgan to spill what he actually learned from the victim. Apparently, the man was stabbed with a sword, which is the sword we probably just saw. Yes, a sword, but wasn't able to get a good look at the assailant's face. No surprise there, since the place wasn't well lit. and the attack itself had to be a surprise. Despite it not being much, it was still better than nothing in the long run. You could at least narrow down the possibilities. Someone carrying a sword or a large blade would need to conceal it somehow. One thing that Morgan mentioned, though, made you think for a minute. The victim said that the killer appeared out of nowhere, yet there was only one entrance to the alley and nothing to hide behind. The entire thing was strange, to say the least. Well, since apparently the world follows like supernatural rules, honestly doesn't surprise me, so. You split up on your way to the medical examiner's office. Morgan just waved in quiet thanks once you dropped him off at his house, and Kari decided to head back to the station and read up on potential serial killer's victims. That meant you were going solo. Just like the old days. You stared ahead. In all honesty, you missed the bickering and constant banter. You were relieved you missed the silence. I mean, I'm gonna answer this as a social battery question and not whether or not I'm interested in either of them, because I'm obviously interested in Kari, obviously not in Morgan. I guess I'm relieved I missed the silence, because social battery is a thing that drains very quickly with me. You preferred solitude to the company of others. It had nothing to do with the people, more so the fact that you felt more comfortable in silence than when you were surrounded by constant noise. Now you had plenty of undisturbed quiet since the medical examiner ordered you to wait outside until she's called for you. Time passed. You took out a cigarette. I don't smoke. I'm going to take a minute to observe my surroundings. You inhaled the fresh, cold air and watched as barely visible fog formed in front of you as you breathed out. The weather was rarely nice, but as long as there were no storms with wind strong enough to break trees and topple cars, you were satisfied. Time passed again. As fate would have it, you were alone for a moment before a familiar face came into view. Roan waved at you. Roan? Speed walking in your direction. Mal! They yelled out, with a sunny smile on their face as always. To be honest, it was pretty uncommon to see Roan out and about at such an early hour. Usually they were at their bakery, selling freshly baked pastries and the sort, taking advantage of the lunch hour. You nodded at Roan? No, this is our friend. We're not going to answer the hard option because, again, I don't think I'd feel that way with someone that's meant to be, like, my best friend. You know, like, I get the idea that your partner is meant to be your best friend in that sense, but I feel like you should also, if you can anyway, have a best friend that isn't, like, romantically involved with you so that you can sort of have that separate, unbiased, I guess, party, if that makes sense, in the sense of romance anyway. So Roan is just a friend. You smiled, reaching out to give Roan a hug, because this is our friend. Roan chuckled at the gesture, easily leaning into the touch and settling into your arms. They rested their chin on top of your head, enjoying the warmth. Is this because I said I'm short? I missed you, you murmured with a friendly but teasing tone. Roan let out a short laugh at that, gently patting your back. I can see that. They shook their head. I'm very glad to have caught you, then. You were looking for me? They nodded quickly, and a few stray strands of hair bounced around their faces as they did it. I heard you had another tough one today, they explained, sending you one of their soul-warming smiles. So I figured you could use some cheering up. They extended their hand towards you with a small paper bag. It had a yellow bee printed on it, a logo of the Luos Bakery. Inside was your favorite sandwich? I don't know why I can click on that, at the sight of which you could feel yourself salivating. Oh, I can change it. We have a pie option, we have a bagel option, we have a cake option, we have cookies, fruits, and a sandwich again. I want a bagel. You're a lifesaver, Roan. Thank you. You smiled back, taking the bag. Don't mention it, really. They fixed their iconic pink-tinted glasses. I can't let the Deadwood's protector starve on the job now, can I? There was a subtle teasing note in their voice, and not even a minute later they winked at you, chuckling under their breath. Now, I should get back to my work before a riot happens because someone didn't get their muffins. Despite knowing that it was a joke, you wouldn't be surprised if someone actually did cause trouble for this exact reason. Roan's Bakery was sort of a special place for the community, and Luos made it their life's mission to accommodate everyone's dietary needs, since their shop was the only decent one in town. Not only that, people often just came there to sit and talk to each other, gossip about the neighbors, read during a break at work, study for school. You couldn't begin to imagine Deadwood without the Luos family bakery. Will you have some time after work? The question startled you back into the present, despite how gentle Roan's voice was. Okay, none of the romance options, obviously. I'm not gonna promise. Because I don't know. Because it is chaotic, we're dealing with a corpse, so I'm gonna go with this one. I'm sorry, I might not have the time today with how chaotic everything is. No matter what you personally wanted, it was simply impossible to predict your work schedule these days. Especially now when you just discovered the existence of a serial killer in Deadwood, and a likely murderer as well. Realistically, you could be called back in even the middle of the night if something happened. You didn't want to make plans and then bail at the last minute. Fortunately, Rowan understood that. They were always very understanding of your work. It's alright, we can meet up some other time, they assured, calming down your potential anxieties. Just, please be careful, Mel. I will, don't worry. See you around, Rowan, he said as they started walking away. And you were alone. Yeah. I want to have at least one best friend that is just my best friend, and this is a good fit. You exhaled slowly, your gaze sliding over the silhouettes of the tall trees in the horizon. The longer you looked at them, the more it felt like you were being watched. It was impossible to see past them, as there was an impenetrable darkness between each and every one of them. Well, we are being watched is really fucking creepy, but we don't know that. You didn't even know what it was you were looking for. Maybe a movement or a flash of yellow eyes, maybe a familiar face staring back at you. Realistically, it would be more likely for you to see a lone doe or an owl than anything else. Still, you couldn't shake off that uncomfortable feeling of being observed, like prey. The door to the office opened up after a moment, revealing the medical examiner, Rosalia. She looked far from happy and looked you over with a tired gaze. You could have guessed that she didn't get much sleep as of late. Anything interesting in those trees, or will you go back to your job? You pursed your lips into a thin line. You didn't expect a warm welcome, really, but the hostility wasn't something easy to get used to, no matter how often you faced it. Better hide that bag, or it's going to reek like dead bodies. She nodded at your second breakfast, with a gesture inviting you inside the office. Promptly, you hid the food and followed her inside. You just wanted to get this over with, or whatever you could, and get back to the station, hopefully. I'm not gonna say what'd kill you to be nice, because yes, as snappish and as rude as she can be, I always go in with the assumption, or at least I try to, that you never know what's just happened to somebody, so... Did something happen? Rosalia shrugged, giving you a non-answer. Doesn't something happen every day? That's the charm of this town, after all. A new cadaver every Monday or so. It was hard to argue with that. Long day, and it's not even afternoon, Marmorial. I'm guessing your day is going about as well as mine is. You let out a long sigh. At least you tried to be caring. The darkness surrounded you. Rosalia cleared her throat, leading you to the exam table where the unfortunate victim laid. First things first, let me introduce you to our friend here, she started, handing you a file. Samuel Cherney, age 28, died around 4 or 5 a.m. It's hard to pinpoint a more accurate time of death with how cold and wet it was lately. He's a local boy, though he's apparently been away for the last couple of years, only came back in the last week or so. Raised by a single father, came to Deadwood for his funeral. You flipped the pages in the file. You didn't recognize the man's face, which did confirm that he had to have come to town recently. If your memory was right, then Stanislav Cherney, he's Russian, so I don't know. His father died in a freak accident with a lamppost. More specifically, the lamppost suddenly came down on the poor guy and crushed him. Anything on toxicology? You asked, not raising your eyes from the documents. Rosalia shook her head. Nothing besides low alcohol levels in his blood. There was no food in his stomach, so I'd guess he just had one beer before the incident. Your brows furrowed. No drugs or sedatives detected? Rosalia crossed her arms on her chest, everything in her posture telling you to not even try and question the accuracy of her tests. Okay, none detected, you muttered quietly. Cause of death was massive hemorrhage. Whoever is responsible for this, they knew exactly where to strike. One precise stab wound to the chest was enough. Even if someone called the ambulance right then and there, he likely wouldn't survive. This supports the theory that it was someone with experience, maybe a professional? You wondered, tapping your finger on the side of the file. Did you figure out the murder weapon? You asked, finally looking up from the papers. Judging from Rosalia's face, the answer was no. It was something sharp and metallic, I'll tell you that. It's definitely not a knife. Maybe the killer is a welder and made his own murder weapon, I can't say. It would be thin and long, though, and not too heavy. How would you know that? There's no bruising around the wound, and it penetrated nearly all the way to the spine. It did seem to make sense. Then again, it's very hard to tell. We have nothing similar in the database, and I've never seen something similar in my career. She shrugged. I'll take this to Hayes. You shoved the file into your bag. If you find anything else, no matter how insignificant it seems, let me know. Of course, Detective. Best of luck. She walked you out, forcing a polite but insincere smile on her face. I hope we won't see each other again too soon. Yeah. You grimaced, understanding the sentiment immediately. I hope so too. Just one dead body for now was enough. You didn't need another. The drive to the station didn't take long. You wanted to get there as fast as you could, not only to recharge your batteries with the food from Roan, but also to give the captain the medical report and find out if Kari learned anything new. You nodded at your partner in passing, walking quickly towards the captain's office, not slowing down to even check if she noticed you. Before you could have reached Hayes, the noise of a body colliding with a glass window caught your attention. It didn't come from any actual windows, however. The noise came from the interview room, which was surprising since it was usually empty. You ran inside, scanning the area immediately. Officer Toby was deathly pale with his back pressed to the glass screen. He was struggling to formulate a single sentence as the apparent detainee kept a firm hold on the collar of his uniform. You reached out, attempting to defuse the situation and separate the two, when you came face to face with a furious... Again, I'm assuming this is clocking my love interest, so woman, who now focused her murderous gaze on you. Oh, fuck, it's another low voice. I'm already doing a couple of those. Great, I don't fucking know. Fuck it, she's a metalhead. You want to get your shit rocked too, you unsalted shrimp? Yep, that's what we're going with. She growled out, so naturally low and animalistic you could have sworn the sound came from a dog or a wolf, not an actual person. You are inside a police station. Calm down. Like hell I will. She pushed Tobias onto you, nearly sending you both on the ground. I didn't do shit, but this kid arrested me. Okay, I'm sure it was a misunderstanding. You were swinging at a guy with a beer bottle. You groaned, wishing Toby would just shut his fucking mouth. This was not helping the entire situation. You pushed him out of the room, setting him off with a warning glare. His abrasiveness was doing the opposite of what you needed right now. Luckily, Booker didn't fight you on this and quickly made his way out of the room. Meanwhile, the agitated stranger seemed to be getting more worked up with every passing second. She was circling the room like a lion locked in a cage, fists clenching and unclenching as if ready to attack at any moment. You're gonna risk it, or raise our hands. I'm not a fucking idiot. I'm short, okay? The game has confirmed I am short, so we're just going to stand our ground, but not escalating it further until I'm assuming we're all monsters here at this point. This is probably a werewolf. Fine, until werewolf lady fucking calms down, I'm just gonna chill by the door. You didn't move an inch, refusing to back away first. You stood your ground, as did the woman in front of you. You watched her, not speaking a word. You didn't want to risk saying the wrong thing and escalate things, and not moving in her direction. You just waited for her to calm down. Surprisingly, it seemed to be working. Yeah, usually when it's with someone like that, you just shut the fuck up and give them a second. As seconds passed, the woman looked less worked up and started to relax just a bit. It was a small victory, you decided. Better than potentially flying chairs or a fist fight on the floor of the interview room. After a moment of mutual staring contest, Quinn and Hayes ran into the room, with Kari right behind them, and the woman backed away to the opposite side of the room, raising her hands. Hayes looked positively furious. Quinn was cowering behind the captain, intimidated by the situation, while Kari's gaze was fixed on the woman in the room with you. Hayes' face was red from anger. What in the fuck is going on here? The yelling didn't seem to faze the stranger. She still looked pissed off, to say the least. One of your idiots arrested me. That's what's going on. You cleared your throat. According to Officer Booker, this woman was threatening someone with a beer bottle, and when I came in, she had Booker pressed into the glass, you clarified, under the scrutinizing gaze of your superior. Hayes' nostrils flared up and you couldn't tell who he was angry at more. Tobias, you, or this unknown individual. For a long moment, he and the woman stared each other down, until the captain finally let out a heavy sigh, pinching his nose bridge. Why did you threaten someone again, Sinak? So her name is Sinak, you noted in your head. I thought we'd been over this. Sinak scoffed dismissively, crossing her arms on her chest. You talked. I just listened. I never said I'm going to change anything. A quiet, for fuck's sake, I'm too old for this, nearly escaped your attention. Not Kari's, though, as she didn't bother holding back a smirk. Detective Marmorial. You quickly focused back on Hayes, sensing his gaze falling on you. Please escort Sinak out of the station, and do not cause any trouble. Understand? Yes, sir. Hayes made a hum of approval, his shoulders relaxing slightly. Good, he mumbled, and turned his attention to Sinak. Apologies on behalf of Officer Booker, this won't happen again. You know the drill, Riven. Riven Sinak, then. Strange, it feels like I've heard that name somewhere before. I didn't see it in the screen, or maybe I completely missed it. Okay. Riven shot the captain a mildly disturbing smile. All too well, Cap. You both moved out the door. As Riven moved to pass you, something caught your eye. A necklace that was hanging around her neck. A broken heart with engraved letters. It looked old and battered, tried by time, and it looked so familiar to you. It took you no less than a second to recall a memory of you and your childhood best friend. I thought Ron was my childhood best friend. Okay. Riven Sinak, a frail, bruised-up kid from the house next door that was ready to get suspended and jump into fights for you without a second thought. You two shared an identical necklace. One part of the heart was yours, another one was hers. It spelled out best friends, and it seemed quirky and fun for the two of you at the time. So I'm gonna assume she's childhood best friend in the sense that we lost touch over time, because other than that, like, why? Because Rome was meant to be my best friend, so she must have been another time, another place. Okay. I'm going to keep it. I'm gonna keep it, because I want some legitimate friends here. It can't all just be romance, as funny as that would be. You kept the necklace over the years and you wore it every day, though sometimes you barely remembered its significance. Yeah, because they were gone, but honestly, it seems like something I would do. I don't really like wearing a lot of jewelry, but certain pieces I'll wear. Even when your memories of Riven were fuzzy and unclear, you could never bring yourself to get rid of the necklace. It was connected to too many happy moments of your life, and it was something that allowed you to feel close to Riven, even when you two were apart. Now, however, here she was. Your Riven. Wait, I said friends! I don't even know if I want to date her yet. In the flesh, I guess. Riven? The sound of her own name startled her and forced her to take a step back from the detective. Wait, oh, this is Riven's point of view now. Okay, we're switching. She never liked feeling cornered, the feeling sending her into a frenzied panic, and the last 15 minutes were nothing short of a nightmare. First, the officer, Booker, arrested her and dragged her to a station, and later this detective tried to intervene, who knows why. Riven never saw her before, which was strange. She was a frequent guest to the station, often dragged there for fights with bar patrons. Maybe she is from the night shift or new to the job or some shit, she thought to herself. Detective Marmorial unnerved Riven. Her face seemed eerily familiar, and so did her scent. You are definitely a werewolf at this point. You gotta be. Yet no memories came to mind, no matter how much Riven tried to remember. It frustrated her to the core. What are you gawking at? I got something on my face or what? She asked defensively. I think I'm happy to see you. You couldn't believe it. Your best friend from childhood stood right in front of you, alive and relatively well. While obviously she did not change, you could still imagine the frail, shy kid that she once was. The necklace on your chest was like a second heart now. You had the urge to grab at it just to calm your excitement. I'm Mal Marmorial. Do you not remember me? You asked, hopeful. While you certainly grew up since the time you were 14, the lack of recognition in Riven's eyes still hurt. It was as if all those years of friendship you had did not happen. The realization slowly sinked in. Riven did not remember you. Life would be less cruel if you both simply never met again. Now your head was imploding from the hundreds of questions that constantly buzzed inside your head like a beehive. Riven's head tilted to the side. You couldn't tell if she was just frustrated or agitated in general. Given the circumstances, you could understand both. I have no idea who the fuck you are. Lover or hater, at least Riven seemed to be very open and honest with her opinions. Now excuse me, I get itchy hands when there's too many cops around, so... She moved past you, shooting the nearby officers a crushing glare. Quinn moved quickly to hide behind Kari, however, Lortnock seemed nothing short of amused by the entire situation. So damn dramatic, she murmured, shaking her head. You might as well be characters in a romance novel. Okay, whatever. Hayes attempted a schooling expression, but it did absolutely nothing to discourage Kari's remarks. Armorial, escort Riven before she strangles one of these idiots. He sighed, rubbing his temples. He managed to nod before quickly following after Sinek. Now that you could actually focus on how she looked, you noticed the state of her knuckles. She must be fighting pretty often for them to look this way, you wondered. Riven made a point of always staying a few steps ahead of you, keeping a safe distance and making any attempts at conversation impossible, as if she was trying to separate herself from you. Once you were by the exit, Sinek visibly relaxed, even took a deep breath, closing her eyes for a second. Will you be okay from here? You asked as soon as you two were by the door. Riven shot you a smile, the type you'd often seen on the faces of reckless daredevils before they did something stupid. More than okay if I stayed in there, that's for sure. You couldn't squash the tinge of guilt at those words. Maybe you could have handled that better, or maybe the entire situation could have been avoided. You really need to talk to Officer Toby once you got some time. You sighed, watching as she walked onto the parking lot. Just try and stay out of trouble, please. The last thing you needed was another dangerous situation involving your childhood friend, who didn't seem to remember you. Riven's smile grew into a wide grin. She started to walk away from the station. No promises. God, things were getting more complicated by the minute. Yeah, I like playing it that way, because at least it complicates things a bit in terms of our history, and it makes our character, our personal little MC, feel a little more fleshed out, so I like that. It stressed you out. The news of the serial killer, the complete lack of leads in the murder case, the new partnership with Kari, and now the return of Riven, who you believed to be gone. Why wouldn't you, after over a decade with no news about her, and no information what happened to her? Not to mention the weird stranger, Sage Rennis, and her sudden appearance. Things were so complicated that you couldn't even begin to untangle this mess. The end of the day couldn't come soon enough. You wished you had something to fidget with to keep your hands busy, and something that's unavailable. I don't like idle hands. I like to always be doing something, so I guess fidgeting works. It wasn't long before the gruff voice of the captain sounded somewhere behind you. Hey kid, you alright there? Nervously, you looked down at your hands. Hayes was standing a short distance behind you, not close enough to crowd you, but not far enough to have to shout to talk to you. I'm fine, sir. Whether it was a truth or a lie was debatable. Hayes wasn't buying it even for a second, and he couldn't even act surprised. The man knew you for a while now. I know you and Riven, used to have some past. You went to school together, right? You managed to nod. Hayes made a quiet humming noise. Then you're not fine by a long shot. But you know what? It's okay to feel like shit. You're allowed a bad day, or a bad month, or even a bad year. If it gets too much, you tell me. For a moment, you didn't know how to respond. Hayes was an asshole. He embraced it about himself, actually. But he wasn't cruel or ignorant when it came to his people's needs. He tried to support everyone under him in his own way. Maybe you could accept that support too one day. Yes, sir, you said finally. Good. Then let's go before Lortnock dies of boredom there. You nodded and followed him inside. Officer Booker was holding an ice pack to his cheek. Riven had to have managed a nice punch before you walked into the room. Kindly, you decided not to mention it. Captain Hayes held the door to his office open for you, shutting it loudly right after you. Kari was sitting inside already, looking somewhere between irritated and uncomfortable. She didn't even look up as you entered. Something was off. You sat down hesitantly. What's going on? You asked cautiously. Hayes didn't look too relaxed either, pacing around the room. Okay, please don't tell me someone died again. Kari's hoarse laughter almost startled you. Oh, actually, that would be good news instead of this. She made the last word sound so venomous you half expected her to just spit at the captain at any moment. You two will have to go to Wanda's tonight, see Sasha and interview her again. See if she remembered something more, or maybe heard something new. That sounded like hell. And you'll have to go with Kari, your partners now, and it would be dangerous for only one of you to investigate at night. I don't do bars, Hayes. Kari seethed through her teeth. It's loud and noisy and full of sweaty, drunk people. It was impossible to disagree. The bar patrons also weren't fond of the police, which was understandable, honestly. However, that meant more danger for you if someone decided to swing at your partner or you. You'll both have the morning off tomorrow. Work with me here. This is not a normal situation. Memorial. Hayes pleaded, looking at you this time, as if you could actually argue. You didn't really have a choice in the matter. You had to do as you were told. I can get inside and tell Sasha to meet us in the alley out the back. It should have less lights and people, and it should be more quiet, you offered. As much as you hated the idea of going inside the bar, at least you could trust yourself to not murder one of the drunken patrons. With Kari, you had some doubts. Kari's eyes narrowed as she looked at you. Basic human decency was not something she was used to, clearly. And that's okay. I'm going to keep showing you more of it. Hayes, however, looked satisfied with your answer. All right, since that's decided, tell me what you've learned so far. And so you did. As you spoke, the captain's expression only grew more tense and serious. He did not interrupt you or Kari, as the two of you explained what you learned from the crime scene and the body so far. The only lead you two had were the unusual murder weapon and the fact that the person responsible had to have done something similar before. That meant they had either prior or similar case had to have happened somewhere before. That was where the good news stopped, because you had almost no chance of proving that theory. In all of Deadwood, there were exactly 0 cases like that, and contacting other stations almost always led to nothing. Kari couldn't find anything significant on the victim, and no news about the serial killer case, so there was little you could do. All you could do was wait. Hayes dismissed you and your partner, giving you 2 the rest of the day off. You had to rest before the night, after all. You looked at the clock, 3:47 p.m. Enough time for you to go back to your house, eat something more than just a second breakfast, and get some sleep. Unfortunately, it meant you had no time for anything else, since you had to leave around 8 p.m. and pick up Kari on your way to Wanda's, since she did not know the way. And we have a couple locked options down here. I wonder what they would have been. You needed to rest before work. You really need to rest. After all, it wasn't just your safety on the line. You had a partner now. And that meant you were responsible for her, too. And so you went home. Wanda's bar was as lively as ever, which made you glad that you'd taken the much-needed few hours of sleep. A number of patrons were already drunk and rowdy, and you needed to keep your senses sharp. Not only to steer clear of any potential troublemakers, but also to keep your partner away from nearly everyone. Kari attracted attention since she was new in town, and she didn't really appreciate all of the strangers trying to strike up a conversation with her. You weren't even inside the bar, only by the front door. Kari looked already done with this place. If one more person says some stupid pickup line to get my name, I swear, she mumbled angrily. You know what? I want to get on her good side. You have my permission to punch them, because the fucking constant hitting on, the constant bothering is annoying, and you shouldn't have to put up with that. Her brows shot up in genuine surprise, and you could have sworn you saw something like a shadow of a twitchy smile on her lips. It was too dark to tell for sure, but she seemed amused by your words. I'll keep that in mind, then, she hummed, looking up at the neon red sign above the door. I'll wait in the alley around the back. Don't take too long, or I'll think someone kidnapped you in there. That was probably the most caring thing she has ever said to you. It was almost touching. You gave her a nod and watched as she walked away. Brought it back around a little bit, Kari. Brought it back around. I mean, with everyone so far, things might change when we meet Sasha. I don't know, because I set it up so that we have a history. Fucking flesh out her backstory a little more. But Kari's winning me over again so far. Let's take a deep breath and went inside. Well, I fucking changed the tenses of that. Alright. It was like a nightmare came to life. Your senses were immediately overwhelmed by the heat and the noise of people shouting, singing, and talking combined with the loud music. It was hard to navigate in the crowd, and it was even harder to try and find a specific person among all of those people. You couldn't tell if you were inside for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, before a familiar face appeared right in front of you. Sasha was looking as unique as ever, dressed in a combination of laces and leather, in different shades of neon red and pitch black. Why does she feel southern? Why does she fucking feel southern? The lace got me. You know what? I'm gonna do my shitty southern accent. Why not? My favorite detective, she chirped, guiding you away from the other people. That's a nice surprise. Did you miss me? She asked, batting her eyelashes. Oh, Sasha, you've said a few lines and I already can tell what kind of relationship we had. You know I did. Sasha's smile became more alluring as she bashed her eyelashes at you. Wait, bashed them? I think you meant batted. I don't think she just fucking bashed her fucking eyelashes. Oh, but now I can't get that picture out of my head. Oh my god. If we keep meeting like this, I might start to think you only want me for my brains, detective. She pouted dramatically, playing with the hoop on her choker. You let out a short laugh, taking in the sight of her. She looks stunning, as always. Isn't it a good thing? You asked, letting your tone drop into a more teasing tone. Sasha's lips formed a playful grin. It's absolutely terrible, detective. I don't spend 2 hours in front of the mirror for nothing. You couldn't help but laugh along with her. I mean, with this banter right now, we could be adorable together. All right, Sasha and Kari, I'm between those two. They've left an impression on me. As much as you'd like to continue this, however, you are not in the bar for pleasure. Yet. I need to talk to you about work, though. Sasha's eyes glimmer with curiosity. About the morning accident. Ah, the expression on Alucard's face became a bit more serious. Then we should take this outside, away from the crowd. She pointed her head towards the back exit. You both walked out into the street. As soon as you left the bar, a wave of relief washed over you. The day was intense, to say the least, and you hardly had any time for yourself, and you felt your social battery running out. Hey, social battery, yo! Yes, definitely, for sure. Oh, some things are more draining than others, and I'm so glad that was acknowledged. Sasha gave you a curious look, her lips twisting into a teasing smile. Eager to get me alone, detective? Oh? She asked, tilting her head and looking down on you, with a spark in her pale brown eyes. No matter how much time went by, or what the situation was, she never passed a chance at another banter session with you. I'm not gonna fucking warn, or scold her, or hold back a fucking smile. Are you kidding me? I'm not gonna fucking be embarrassed either. Nah, we're letting this happen. Fuck you, Kari, I hope you're goddamn watching. Finally, somebody who knows how to fucking treat a lady. Sasha. You lowered your voice, dropping into a more sultry tone. She perked up, almost like a puppy would, at the tone of your voice. Her head tilted to the side in a mix of curiosity and unhidden interest. Yes, ma'am? She asked, eyes seemingly a little darker. Your lips turned into a more suggestive expression as you took a step forward. As you did, Sasha went backward until her back hit the wall. There was only a short distance between you two. Focus on work and be good, will you? Your voice came out even deeper, and you could see a spark light up in Sasha's eyes. Yes, detective, she murmured. Well then, I'm not mad at this. I'm not fucking mad at this development at all. Okay, hopefully we get her alone later. Oh my goodness, the writing is so fucking well done. It's gonna be the fucking death of me, but let's fucking get to business, shall we? You could see the playfulness melt away from Sasha's face and her posture become more guarded. Are you two done? You heard from behind you. You never heard any footsteps, but it was definitely Kari. You recognized her unique rasp. Sasha shot her an almost patronizing expression. Sure, kitty cat. Why did I expect it to go easy? You had to fight yourself not to groan out loud. Kari looked ready to turn Alucard into a holiday decoration. Give me a reason, bat. What the fuck is with the animal references? Okay, I've clocked that Alucard is probably Dracula spelled backwards, so Sasha's probably a vampire. I don't know what Kari's supposed to be, but apparently she's a cat? Okay, neither of them are gonna give me a fucking explanation. Alright, well, Sasha, this is my partner, a detective partner, I'm still very much available. Kari Lortnock. Kari, this is Sasha Alucard, my criminal informant. Sasha's eyes shine with mischief. Charmed. Kari answered it only with a low grunt. You could see your partner's fingers tighten around her bracelet. Can you just tell us what you need to know? Then we'll go our separate ways. Sasha seemed to intensely think over her options before finally deciding on one. Fine. She turned to you almost theatrically, enough to not see Kari even with the corner of her eye. I didn't know the guy, never seen him before. He died a little before 427, though. Kari's brows furrowed. And how would you know the specific time of death? Sasha's lips twisted into a condescending smile. Because before 427, I didn't. She cut off abruptly, giving you a curious glance, as if she almost slipped up and told you something you were not supposed to know. I was around the area at 420. Blaze it. At 427, I saw the body. You grimaced. But you didn't report it until the morning. I did report it earlier, but apparently whoever sat at the desk forgot to relay the information to the patrol people. In all honesty, it was completely believable. The night shift often forgot about things and dumped it all on the morning shift. Did you see the attacker then? It seems like you were in the area just around the time of the murder, Kari inquired, her piercing gaze focused on Sasha. Alucard shrugged, leaning back against the wall again. Not really. No face or anything. I did see someone on the roof a street away, though. Black clothes, tall as fuck. Please use real measurements of height, Sasha. You sighed, giving her a pleading look. But as fuck is a real... Alucard, I have limited patience. It was rare for Sasha to glare at anyone, but clearly her and Kari did not get along. Taller than Hayes by a head, I guess, but it was from a distance, so I can't be more specific. That's fair, you muttered, writing everything down in a notepad. It's more reliable than anyone's memory. Now when they say slipped... Am I just oblivious? Do I not know that people are monsters? Maybe, I don't know. And then you nearly broke the pen on your notepad. Wait, why? And your alibi? Both you and Sasha turned your heads at the same time, looking at Kari with a mix of disbelief and, in Sasha's case, how dare you expression. Lortnock, though, seemed to not notice any of this. It's a valid and mandatory question. You were at the scene. You're a criminal informant. You carry a knife. You carry a knife? You parroted, staring at Sasha with shock. Who doesn't carry a knife? She countered. Most people, Kari deadpanned with a somewhat bored expression. Listen, it's a small knife and it's for bottle opening or, self-defense since I like to party with alcohol and strangers. Sasha tried to explain while handing you the knife in question. You carefully bagged it. It was better to rule it out officially than have problems for it later. The knife was really small, too small to be the murder weapon. It also had a glittery red handle. Some of the glitter already stuck to Alucard's palms. If it was ever used to harm someone, glitter would likely be somewhere on the body. Okay, is that all? You questioned. Sasha opened her mouth as if to say something, but then her expression changed to almost blank. This crowd is getting too stiff for me, she mumbled, looking somewhere behind you. You frowned, turning to see whatever it was that made her say that. What do you... Ah, my favorite detective. You have not told me who this is, so neutral voice it is. That seemed familiar. You knew that voice. The same voice made shivers run down your spine and made Kari tense up beside you. From the shadows, you could slowly make out the red hair, the pale complexion. You also heard the characteristic sound of the cane moving on the pavement. Miss Sage Rennis. Well, as you fucking live and breathe. Fancy seeing you here, she mused, her eyes flicking between your companions. Slowly, her lips formed a polite but cold smile. And with your show of curiosities. Oh, please. Like I'm gonna fucking bow to this. Are you here to join it? Sasha muffled a choked laughing noise, and you could swear that you heard Kari snort as well. Sage did not look angry by your comment in the slightest. She seemed intrigued. Her eyes glowed with curiosity. I'll have to decline, but I'll keep the offer in mind, she purred, her gloved hands gripping the handle of her cane tighter. I came here because I happen to have some vital information for you, my dear detective. But I'd rather tell you after you dismiss your friends. Kari's growl cut her off. Like hell she will. You glanced between your companions and Rennis. You needed to defuse the situation. I can handle this, Kari, you said, mustering up all your confidence. You couldn't let anyone notice that Rennis's presence disturbed you on any level. Judging by your partner's look, she didn't buy it, but she also did not call you out. Sasha looked unsure between the two of you, light on her feet. Can you keep an eye on Sasha? I'll be back in a minute. You tried to keep your voice quiet so your flame-haired nuisance wouldn't hear you. Kari simply nodded, although she looked far from pleased. Sasha, on the other hand, stared at you like a child that was being left by her mother in the line to the cash register at the grocery shop. Sasha, don't say that, please. No, it's fine. I'll be back with you in a minute, hopefully. Sage's lips formed a confident smirk as she guided you away into the alley nearby. It was poorly lit, but empty. I may know of someone quite troublesome. Someone who recently came to Deadwood. In the last 36 hours, actually. She started, casually glancing at her cane. You looked down at it too. It seemed to be made of solid dark wood, and if you had to guess, you'd say it was fairly old. The handle was no amateur job. It reminded you of an antique from a museum. You are aware that this description fits almost a third of the entire town, correct? Sage let out a low chuckle at that. Let me be more precise then. Her head cocked to the side. This person is quite skilled in violence, and remaining undetected. You'll soon have your hands full with work if they decide to stay in town. Now that did pique your interest, and made alarm bells sound in your head. Do you have a name, an alias, description, anything that I can use to prevent all this trouble? Again, Sage chuckled. Oh no, I am only here to warn you. You should be careful, Mal. You never know who's watching your every move. A chill made you shiver at her words. Did she talk about the serial killer? No, that killer was in Deadwood for a longer time. The murderer, then. Or was there a third party that was about to join the chaos? Your head hurt because of all of this. Is that all? You managed. Sage gave you an empty smile. Yes, you can go back to your friends. You let out a deep breath, turning on your heel. Stay safe, Mal. You quickened your pace. Now you wondered, did you ever tell Sage your name? Something was afoot. Where's Sasha? You asked, looking around. I could have sworn she was right here. She bolted. Kari replied matter-of-factly. You blinked slowly, staring at her in disbelief. She bolted? You repeated, and Lortnot gave you a nod. And you didn't stop her? You couldn't disguise the hint of annoyance in your voice, and Kari's eyes narrowed. Do I look like a babysitter to you? She asked, very slowly, making you think twice before speaking again. You didn't say anything about keeping her here, so I didn't bother stopping her. You had to suppress a groan. Now we have to find her again. Sasha was a great informant, but she was easily bored by the serious stuff, such as interviews and interrogations. Let's split up and try to find her. She can't be too far, you decided, already looking around for a familiar figure. Kari let out a grunt of annoyance next to you. If it turns out she has nothing useful, I'm kicking your ass, Memorial. Yeah. She warned, soon disappearing behind a nearby corner. You took a deep breath and started walking in the other direction. You just saw Sasha not even 5 minutes ago, and the night was still young. Alucard had to be somewhere nearby. Sage was almost slumped against the brick wall with her hair in disarray, clothes all wrinkled. She was doubling down, coughing as if someone punched her in the throat or choked her mere seconds before. Miss Rennis! You yelled, running towards the gagging woman. Because of the dark, it was hard to assess the damage, but you could see the reddish marks around her neck, so painfully visible on the pale skin. You kneeled next to her, not sure if it was a good idea to get any closer. What happened? Did someone attack you? She nodded her head, clawing at her neck as if someone was still choking her. Did you see where they ran off to? Again, a nod answered you. There, she croaked out, pointing a finger towards one of the narrow alleys. Your gaze followed her direction, just in time for you to see the culprit. We're gonna go with woman again. A tall woman dressed in black with something covering her face and a hood obscuring her features further. Something else that you've noticed about her was an item by her hip. A long, thin blade. The murder weapon. As soon as your eyes met, she bolted in the opposite direction. You had little time to react or think your options over. You gave chase. You couldn't let the potential murderer get away. It was not an option. What you didn't expect was for the culprit to be this fast and agile. You felt like chasing down an athlete. If you didn't act fast, you'd lose her as soon as you reached the exit from the alley. Freeze! You yelled, pointing the taser at the stranger's back. You've never shot a gun before, and you did not plan to change that in the near future. A taser was less deadly and arguably more effective. Surprisingly, the woman listened and stopped moving. She did not turn around to face you. In fact, she didn't do as much as flinch. You didn't know if you'd prefer it if she did or not. It was somehow unnerving how calm she was. Raise your hands. Slowly, he instructed, not making another step. The woman did as she was told. No sudden movements. Hands behind your head, kneel on the ground. Again, you met no resistance. Now you were really getting paranoid. Kari was nowhere to be found, which meant no backup. Luckily, at least there were no civilians that could end up as collateral. The only two people who could get hurt were you and the woman in front of you. You made a step forward. You kept your eyes on the woman as you tried to reach for your handcuffs. It was at that moment that you realized that they were missing. Then, everything happened in a blur. You were thrown against the brick wall and the stranger grabbed you by the throat, her fingers squeezing it just enough to cut off the blood flow, but not the oxygen. The lower half of her face was covered by some black material, but you could see her eyes perfectly. A mixture of gold, hazel, and brown, reminding you of a warm honey. They didn't seem like the eyes of a killer. They seemed tortured, haunted. Something in those eyes compelled you to go limp, even as her fingers grasped your neck tight enough to make you dizzy. Black dots danced in front of you as your vision blurred. Stay out of my way, Mal, the woman whispered. I do not wish to harm you, but I will if I have to. After that, it was all black. Okay. This is the end of Chapter 1. Stay tuned for Chapter 2. Do save your game now for future updates and stay tuned. Are you gonna give me notifications? Do I have to keep fucking checking back here? What a fucking cliffhanger. Hold on. This was last updated a week ago. It was published in January. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this somehow. Since this is the last chapter, unfortunately, I was hoping for more. What a fucking cliffhanger. Who was that? I want to check on my relationships now because we've passed some time, and I feel like it'll be some time before we hit off with Chapter 2. Okay, so as of right now, Sasha thinks we're fascinating, apparently. Okay. It's better than most so far, but apparently we're fascinating. Maybe we could have a relationship with her, because we bounce off really fucking well. Sage still thinks we're a fucking pest, of course. Ariel thinks we're an obstacle? Did we meet an Ariel? I don't remember that. Huh, okay. Kari is mildly concerned for us. Aww, that's something. Okay, so there's something there. Roan wants us to be closer, even though we're distant. Oh no, don't tell me Roan has a crush on us. So that's changed as well. That's really fucking cool. And then Riven. Riven doesn't know if we're trustworthy, but she's warming up to us. Well, that's good. I want my friend back. And Morgan is still indifferent. Hayes trusts us a little bit, somewhat. Okay, cool, good. I don't think that's changed. Rosalia thinks we're decent. Quinn still looks up to us. Tobias thinks we're rude and doesn't like us. Well, I don't like you either, so it doesn't matter. Okay, cool. There's our relationships in. Has our character changed? Nothing has changed, which means I'm going to save over here then. Well, I'm excited for chapter 2, whenever the fuck that comes out. Fucking hell, I hope it's soon, but honestly, no rush because the writing is fucking brilliant. I'm so invested, but I hope y'all enjoyed this. We'll probably be back to our regular schedule. Itchio, I know Baby and Yellow has a new update that I still need to play. Definitely excited to see that, but yeah. Thank you so much, whoever else is watching this. Like, comment, subscribe. Really does help me out. Until next time, bye!